We're now properly recording. Tell me your name and how old you are.
My name is Helen Baldwin, and unfortunately, I've just become 91 years old.
So tell me when you were born.
1917, the 1st of July.
And what was your maiden name?
My maiden name was Pratt.
Okay. I won't say it since you find it obviously a bit distasteful. Tell me how you came to make the journey out to Lahore.
Well, war broke out, and I obviously had to do something because I wasn't working. And I saw advertised in the paper they wanted secretaries to work with the Army Welfare Officer, and we were living in Rochester, so I volunteered and got the job because I had worked in London, an insurance company, during my young days as secretary, so I was a trained secretary, so I managed to get the job.
Okay, so that's Rochester.
In Rochester, in Kent.
So how did you make the jump to Lahore?
Well, I'd worked probably a year or nearly two, and I think it until about early 1945, and I decided that my husband had been killed in an air crash, and I decided I wanted to do something else. I didn't want to stay in a rot. So they were asking for volunteers in SAFA, which is Soldiers, Sailors and Airmen's Families Association, for volunteers either for Germany or to go to India. And as I had an uncle who had been in India working, I thought I'd like to go because I'd heard stories of India when I was a young girl, a little child. So I volunteered and I was posted to Lahore.
So a ship out?
A ship out, yes, in the dark, because the war hadn't ended then. But during our trip, the Japanese war became final.
So as you were at sea, the Japanese war ended?
Yes, and we were all blacked out until then, and we slept on the deck because it was too hot in the cabins.
So where did you embark from? Where did you sail from?
We sailed from...
Where did you sail to?
Oh, Bombay. And we had a week in Bombay just looking around, getting used to the climate. And then I got a train to Lahore, and that's where I was for 2 years.
And can you remember what you thought of Lahore when you arrived there? After all, this was so different from what you were used to.
I loved it from the beginning. It was wonderful. I mean, the food was super. I hadn't had fresh things and lovely things to eat for all the time the war was on, and life was absolutely wonderful. And I fitted in with the barracks. The barracks were nice. The chaps were nice.
So you lived in the barracks?
No, I lived in the Napier Hotel where we had to live, but the barracks were in the surrounding area of Lahore, and every day we had an office there. We used to go to the office. The officer, my husband-to-be, was the welfare officer for his Suffolk regiment, and he used to come and bring soldiers in who had problems with their wife, or they'd heard from a friend that their wife was mixing with an American, and they wanted something done about it. So we would write a report, send it to our HQ in London. They would send a representative to see the wife, and they would sort things out if necessary, have the American transferred, or at least his CO would interview him and giving him a dressing down.
So you were basically a marriage guidance counsellor.
Yes.
From a long way away.
Yes.
But also, as a young single woman,
Yeah.
you must have been very popular.
Oh, yes. Lots of dances, lots of invitations. It was a lovely life.
What did you enjoy most?
Well, it was lovely to go on tour to places I'd only read about and didn't know anything about. Simla, Bangalore, the Himalayas, Kashmir, to all the places I knew about but hadn't visited.
Did you go to Kashmir?
Yes, I went to Kashmir, yes. And lots of places. You saw the photograph with me when I was in...
Was it Dalhousie or?
No, not Dalhousie.
Shimla?
Simla, yes. And also, you saw a photograph of me staying at a wonderful house that, not Montgomery, but the other man, forgotten his name.
Wavell?
Yes, Wavelworth. Mm.
And did your job with SAFA was looking after simply British servicemen?
No, anybody, but of course there were only British soldiers there.
Did you have anything to do with the Indian members of the British Army, the Punjabi fighters?
No, nothing at all. We were only there to look after the British soldiers.
And did you meet many Punjabis, or did you very much keep to yourself with British people?
Oh no, we mixed. And when they had parties, we used to go to their parties. And no, we used to mix because there were some very nice ones. I mean, the really nice ones.
Do you remember any of them, any of their names? Were they military people?
Military people mostly, yes. Oh, but I did meet the president of Pakistan, Ayub Khan. And I had a photograph of myself at a party with him, but I can't find it now, unfortunately.
And what was the mood like among the British soldiers? Because the war was over,
yeah,
but they were still in Lahore, and
yes,
presumably they were anxious to get home.
Anxious to get home, but they didn't get home for at least 4 more months. I don't know why, but I went home, and Peter was supposed to come home a couple of weeks later, but he didn't come home for about 4 months later.
So you spent, how long in Lahore?
2 years.
So when did you catch the boat home?
About 47, something like that. 45 to 47 I was there.
And were you in Lahore as things got worse, as the violence started and the tension started?
No. It was perfectly all right when I was there. None of that had started at all.
Did you sense the tension, the beginnings of the animosities between Muslims and Sikhs and Hindus?
Well, there was always that feeling, if you met them, you had to be careful what you said. Nothing for or against. Be quite neutral in any conversation. But I never came across any aggressiveness or anti-Britishness. They were all very, very nice to me.
And were you there when Mountbatten started his period as Viceroy, and when the very fast moves towards independence started to gather pace?
I'd left before then, fortunately, because I believe it was very unpleasant.
So you were in London or back in England when independence happened?
Yes.
So what is your abiding memory of that period in Lahore?
Well, I thought it was absolutely heaven on earth. I mean, I'd been home with the war, with food problems and other problems, and there everything was available. I thought it was just heaven on earth. I never came across anybody with any animosity at all.
And did you enjoy your work?
Oh, yes. I've always loved my work, working for the forces.
But it must have been depressing dealing with people who'd got problems of one sort or another.
No, I never found it depressing, because I felt if I could talk to them and get close to them to tell me exactly what they were worried about, I could help them, because I could put it in my report and stress what the problem was and how this man was so unhappy.
And what were the problems that they faced?
Well, mostly, as I say, they had met an American or some other soldier and were having an affair. Of course, it was difficult for them, I suppose. They'd been married and their husbands were away, they were lonely, they met someone, and these things happen, don't they?
And did that happen on the other side? Did some of the men based in Lahore find girlfriends there?
Oh, yes. One of two of them did, yes, definitely. They became very friendly with the Anglo-Indian girls. who, when they're young, are so pretty and slim, but of course when they get older, they deteriorate very quickly.
And were those relationships which lasted, or were they just fleeting things?
I think they were just fleeting. Necessity of man.
But did any of the soldiers stay in Lahore that you're aware of and not come back?
No. None of them wanted to stay. They all wanted to get home.
And did any of them marry Anglo-Indian girls and bring them back?
Not to my knowledge. Although when I was coming back, there was an Anglo-Indian girl, and she could hardly speak English, which is unusual for Anglo-Indians. They do speak good English. And she was coming home to marry a soldier. And she, as I say, I was teaching her some English because she couldn't speak English, and I don't know how she got on. Anyway, her future husband was there and the family to meet her. I don't know what happened after then.
How did most of the soldiers find their time out in Punjab after the war?
Lahore. Well, of course, they had lots of route marches. They had lots of duties to do. Also, I mean, as I say, my future husband, he was the welfare officer, and that was his job, to look after the welfare of the troops that were in Lahore, his battalion, the 2nd Battalion, and come to me and liaise and try and fix their problems. They had gymkhanas, and they had dinner parties, dances, and things like that. I mean, when they came out of Burma to Lahore, they did relax, and I mean, they'd been through a horrible time. I mean, my husband said that they used to dig leeches out of their legs and arms and bodies with a knife because they were covered. And of course, they never got any washing facilities. If there was a river they just happened to come by, they'd go and, no matter what it was like, they'd have a swim or have a dip.
Did you think that there was a feeling then that a British rule over that part of India was slowly coming to an end?
Oh, definitely, yes. No question about it, yes. There were one or two very educated Indians and Pakistanis who were very arrogant and sort of did a sort of hate British thing, get Britain out.
And you felt that they were going to achieve their goal?
Oh, yes. We definitely thought that was the end, and we'd hand over.
What made you think that? What were the signs of that change?
Well, the people were changing. They were so pro-British, and now they were becoming anti-British, thinking that going back to we ruled them, we took all their money, we did nothing for them. And these were the people who were saying, we've taken everything and given nothing back. But they forget, where did they get the railways from? We British. Where did they get all the other things from? We British. Who taught them English? Who got them schools? The British did all this for them, but it was all forgotten.
And how did you and the British community in Lahore view this change of mood?
Just thought it was inevitable, and it had to come. Just that was it.
And did you mix much with British people who'd lived their whole lives out there?
One or two, yes. We had a very nice dentist and a very nice doctor, and they'd lived out there, but they thought that not immediately, but eventually they would have to come home because it wouldn't work.
And all these parties and gymkhanas and events like this, were these just for officers or were they for everybody?
Oh no, only the regiment and the regiment's friends, and not for outsiders.
But for privates as well as for officers? So for ordinary soldiers, or were they really just for the officers?
No.
And the
officers only, and then the ORs also had parties and things of their own, and then of course they would invite the Anglo-Indian girls, and that was nothing to do with us.
Did you see much of the Anglo-Indian community in Lahore?
You saw them when you went shopping or when you went out, or sometimes I would go to an OR's dance party, and I'd meet them and say hello and be friendly. Always friendly with them, but they didn't mix with the officer community.
And were the Anglo-Indians looked down a little bit on?
I couldn't say so, really, because there was nothing wrong with them. They couldn't help being half-half. No, that never came. Never thought about that. It's just that you didn't mix.
But the other ranks wouldn't mix with Punjabi girls or Sikh girls or anything like that?
No, I think they would. Might have a night out with them and have a good time.
So where would you go for a good time in Lahore when you were there?
Oh, well, lovely Fletcher's restaurant, lovely meal, gorgeous food, and dance, lovely. And, of course, the other thing was we used to have gymkhanas, we used to have lovely parties in the mess, that sort of thing.
But what sort of dances would these be, with orchestras or dance bands?
No, just, at Fletcher's there was an orchestra, of course, a band. But in the mess, they just have a few people who could play and just play mostly the piano. And we had two lovely boys from the Royal Engineers who sang beautifully. And he used to play the piano. Someone would play the piano and they'd sing. And we'd have a classical evening, which was lovely.
And when you went on tour, whereabouts did you go?
Pindi. I went to Kashmir, Bangalore. Where else? Can't remember all the places I went to.
Any that was your particular favourite?
Well, Kashmir was lovely, but Srinagar, Ooty, and all there, beautiful then, really beautiful.
And how did you get to Srinagar? How did you travel there?
Oh, by bus and going up the hills like this. Oh, frightening. Here was the slope, and here was the slope, and here was this bus almost there. Frightening.
And where did you stay in Srinagar?
There was a hotel there, but used to stay for officers only, and that's where I used to stay.
Was that Nidu's? Nidu's Hotel?
I can't remember. It may have been. Can't remember every little detail now.
And what did you do in Kashmir? What sort of things did you get up to?
Oh, we just looked around, went on, had a boat to have a look and see what was happening, and just looking around to see what Kashmir was like.
And were there many Europeans up in Kashmir?
No. Only people who were on holiday from the engineers or army or something like that.
How do you look back on that period of your life out in India?
Oh, I loved every minute of it. I loved every minute. It was a wonderful life. And mostly, I suppose, because I was spoilt. I was an English girl. And they all spoilt me. But they would have spoilt anybody else. Lovely life.
And that's where you met your husband?
Yes, in Lahore, after he'd come out of Burma.
And then you married there, or when you...
No, he came out of the army and he went back to his old job, and he wasn't happy. He was unsettled. India had unsettled him. And he applied for a job in Madras, and he got the job, and so we decided, we got married. He went out first because he had to find accommodation and get into the job of what he was doing. He was company secretary, and he went out to Madras, and about a month later I joined him in Madras.
When would that be?
19...
How long had you been married then?
Oh, only a little while, less than a year.
And when did you get married?
November the 11th.
1940...
1947,
is it?
No, this was about 1949 then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you went out, say, 1950 or so to Madras?
That's right, yes.
And then for how long?
50, Oh, we were there 20 years. And then Peter came back, and he was managing director of a tea company, Duncan Brothers. Then we came back, and he was offered a job in London office, and we lived in Surrey, in Oxshott in Surrey, and we had a nice bungalow. And he worked for the London office for about 6 years, and then he retired.
And how did you find Madras, living in Madras?
Oh, Madras was lovely. The only snag is the temperature and the humidity. The humidity was terrible. You were always wet, you were always hot, and we didn't have a proper winter. Whereas in Lahore, it was very hot in the summer, but you had a lovely winter, beautifully cold with fires, which was quite different. Mm.
And was there a sizable European community in Madras?
Oh, yes. Yeah, there was then, definitely.
So there were clubs and there was a sense of community.
Yeah, lovely.
And the Connemara? Was it the Connemara Hotel?
Yes, the Connemara was lovely, which is apparently not very good now. And the Adyar, as I said, was wonderful, lovely parties there. And the boys used to race on the river. Very good.
And have you been back much since you came back to England?
Never. No. I want to go back because my cousin went back and he went to Adyar, and it was the Adyar River was just filthy, and the Adyar was all deteriorated greatly, not used only by Indians, Pakistanis. So sad.
But on the whole, when you look back on your time in Lahore in particular, you don't feel sad, you feel...
Oh, no. I don't feel sad about any of my memories because they were all lovely. I loved my life out there. And I was young and life was lovely.
So it was the time of your life?
Yes. Not now. Don't like it. Very lonely. Very empty.
Tell me about Captain Georgina.
Well, the person who had been doing forces programs, that's a program for the forces which came out of Lahore, and it was at 10 every Wednesday, and the chap left and they wanted someone to do this program, and I volunteered because I hadn't done any broadcasting before, but I was very interested, and so I took on the program. I would work out all the songs that I thought the forces would like, and when I was on the air, I asked them to ring me or write to me and say what they wanted, which they did, and I kept some of the letters, as you've seen in my book. It was lovely because I felt I was doing something for the forces, and any messages I would send on to whoever they wanted me to send them to.
What sort of music did the forces request?
Well, it wasn't jazz like hot pop music. It was more classical music or songs from shows and things that they'd been to when they were home, and they wanted to hear the music to bring back memories. It was Bring Back Memories program, really.
And where did you broadcast from? Where was your studio?
Lahore studio.
In All India Radio?
Yes, All India Radio.
And whereabouts was that building?
In the middle of Lahore. Can't tell you exactly where. I was taken every week by car.
And did you have to prepare much, or did you just go in there and...
Oh, no, I had to prepare it and type it all out so that I knew, and I had to time it all because I only had 30 minutes, and I had to time it exactly that I would get what I wanted to say in between, and time all the music.
It was live, was it?
Oh, yes.
And who was your audience?
Well, all the forces. They used to tune in at night, 10 o'clock. Here, Georgina.
Why Georgina?
Well, my first husband's name was George, so I said Georgina. Just a silly little memory.
But did you then become known to the forces as Captain Georgina.
Yes, yes, yes. And until someone let slip that who I was, and then they knew who I was and used to tease me. Oh, lovely, we've got a lovely programme for you. We're going to ring you up. I said, well, don't ring and embarrass me.
And how long did you have the programme for?
Oh, for the 2 years I was there. Every Wednesday.
So that was a regular part of the job?
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
So no parties on Wednesday evenings?
Oh, no, no parties Wednesday evenings.